Hello again, election judges. I'm Mike Stolberger, Director of Elections for Blue Earth County. I'm going to walk you through the use and setup and teardown of the OmniBallot. The OmniBallot is our new assisted voting device, and it will be used in all of our polling places on election day. It's going to allow our voters to vote independently if they have any sorts of disabilities, but it's also going to be available for any voter. So if anybody wants to use the OmniBallot just to help them filling in the ovals, or because they want to see what the new technology is all about, they're able to do that. I'm going to walk through the entire OmniBallot case in just a little bit, but I want to show you what else you'll have on election morning when you're ready to set up the polling place. You're going to have a black case like this. This black case is going to contain the printer, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and it's going to have a supply kit. The supply kit is specific to the OmniBallot. The supply kit will also have instructions for setting up the OmniBallot. And like everything else, we want you to follow the checklist and the instructions in there to help make sure that that setup goes as smooth as possible. The other thing I want to point out about the OmniBallot is it's going to have a key. The key is specific to a compartment on the side of the OmniBallot case, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Leave the key in the carrier case. I just want you to know that it's there. So let's actually now take a little break here, and then we'll dive into the actual equipment for you, okay? Alright, so we're now going to get the OmniBallot set up. This is going to happen when we're opening the polls on election morning, and you're going to find the instructions for that in the supply kit. Always, always, always follow the instructions that are provided. That's going to help make your morning go a lot more smoothly. When we unpack our supply kit for the OmniBallot, you're going to find a QR reader. The QR reader is going to be used to activate ballots when people are ready to vote. I'll explain that in a little bit. You're also going to find two cords. The first cord is the cord for the printer, and that is a normal looking plug-in cord. It has a beige or brownish tan dot, and we'll do that in just a little bit. And then the OmniBallot itself has a different plug-in, and that has 3 circles on the end of it and a green dot. We're going to also find in our supply kit a 3-button tactile device. These are for voters who have very limited dexterity with their hands, and we have a plug-in and a capability to plug that in into the OmniBallot, and I'll show you where, but we don't plug it in, and the reason for that is oftentimes voters who would use a device like this bring their own, one that they're more comfortable with, and so we want to have this available. I wanted you to know what it looks like and how to use it, but we won't plug it in so the voter can plug in their own. Let's move back to the case then. I'm going to start out by actually plugging in the power for the OmniBallot. That gets plugged in just into the back of the case. And then the other end gets plugged into a surge protector or a powered outlet, making sure that that powered outlet actually works. Our next step then is to bring the OmniBallot, lay it face down, and then we can unhinge it or open it up. Again, if there's a security seal or something like that, we're going to break that off and follow protocols with the security seals. So to just make sure you're paying attention to that. Once we've unhinged that, we can actually open the OmniBallot, and you'll see that we have our display, and we also have components underneath a tray here that you're going to want to unpack. So come in and take a closer look at that, and when we unpack these components, you're going to find that we have the actual tactile display that most folks are used to. And then we also have our headsets. The headsets are either going to be plugged in already, or you're going to want to plug those in yourself. And you're going to find 2 cords. The power, or the communication cable, excuse me, for the printer, which has that yellow dot on it. And then we also have the cord for the QR reader that has an orange dot on it. Once you've unpacked everything, you can put your tray back in, because we're actually going to leave this in place for our voters on election day. We can just set our devices and our components back on top of there so that they have that available to them. Let's start making our connections now. Remember that the QR reader gets plugged in, and then we're also going to have our cord ready to go into the back of the printer. So we'll do that step in just a little bit here. Once we have those things plugged in, we can turn on the power to the OmniBallot. The power gets turned on inside of this little compartment here. There's a button on the tablet just like normal. You're going to feel your way around there and actually power that on. When you power it on, you're going to hear a beep, and you're going to see a blue light on your QR code. That tells you that you have that plugged in correctly. And we're going to wait for the OmniBallot to load up. The OmniBallot is going to come preloaded for you on election day. It'll have all the ballots that you need to have available to you. And you should be able just to do a couple of real quick steps here to get that all set to go. It's going to load up, and the first screen that you're going to see is a screen that asks for you to enter your administrator credentials. These credentials will be provided to you on election morning, so just follow the instructions that are provided to get yourself logged in. And you should only have to enter these once on election morning, and once you have them entered, it should work fine for you. Right. We hit done, and now when we get to this spot, you're going to have a couple of options. Your option is going to be to obviously follow the instructions, but you're likely going to open the polls on election day and then go to voting. Because this is our demo unit, it is already set to go to voting for us, so you won't have to do that, but normally you would actually hit the open election and then go to voting. Okay, once we get to this screen, this is where we're going to leave the device for our voters, and what they're going to do with that is they're going to actually scan their ballots, and it'll actually work them through the voting process. So we're going to pause right here and then get our printer set up. So let's take just one short break. Alright, so we've now set up our OmniBallot. We've got that turned on and it's ready to go. So we're going to connect the OmniBallot to the printer. And we need the printer side, obviously, because that's what's going to mark the ballot after the voter has used the OmniBallot to cast their votes. So let's take a look at our last two connections. We've got our connection cord that's coming out of the OmniBallot case. Remember, that has the yellow dot, and we're going to actually place that right in the back of the printer. There's a yellow dot that we're going to line up with, and we just plug that straight in. The other cord we have to plug into the printer is the power cord. Remember, that's our more traditional looking power cord, and we can just plug that in like you would expect to need to plug that in. And then remember, we take that to a power strip or a wall plug so that we have power to it. Once we have that in place, we can actually turn our printer on. There's a button right in the lower front corner that I'm pushing right there, and you're going to have that device power up just like your printer is going to do at home. This is a very commercial off-the-shelf type of printer, which is really good for us. It allows us to keep them current and replaced as needed. And we'll let that warm up. While we're letting it warm up, we're going to open up our bypass tray. We use this to feed the ballots in, so we can open the door, pull out the tray, and flip it open. Again, you'll have instructions for everything that you need on election day to make that work right. So now we have our OmniBallot set. It's ready to accept a ballot. We have our printer on. It's connected to the OmniBallot, so we're good to go in that regard. And now we can actually cast our first vote on it. Let me show you how that works. So once a voter has received their ballot, they've checked in with the greeter judge and the roster judge, they've received their voter certificate, and they're able to go get their ballot with their ballot receipt. They bring their ballot to the OmniBallot and say that they want to use that for assistance. Either the voter or an election judge can scan the QR code, and the QR code is a little square that's located on the ballot, and they're going to scan that in with the QR reader, and we're going to hear a chirp. What that does is it loads that ballot into the OmniBallot so that the voter can actually vote it. Go ahead and come and take a look at the screen with me to watch this. So on the screen, you have the ability to choose your voter experience, whether or not you want to vote with the touch screen. And this is a regular tablet, so you can pinch, enlarge, shrink, touch the screen however you want. Or you can vote with the tactile device. Or you can use those 3-button navigation. If you use the 3-button navigation, let me show you on the side of the device here what you'll see. And this is the compartment. You'll use the key that was provided there, and you can open that up, and inside of that compartment you'll find a USB extender. That's where you would plug in any of those adapters that somebody might bring with them to vote on election day. But otherwise, we leave that tucked away. And the reason we'll leave that tucked away is, again, people will bring their own devices, or what's going to happen is almost everybody's going to vote with the touch screen. The touch screen is a really awesome way to vote. We can follow the instructions on the screen. The instructions will be read to us if we need to have them said verbally rather than be able to read them on the screen, and then we can actually get into voting. We use the touchscreen just like normal. Since this is a primary, we're selecting a party. Otherwise, we would just jump straight into the voting screens. We can select our candidates. We can unselect our candidates. We can do everything that we need to do in this regard. Once I'm casting my ballot here. Once I get to that final screen, I accept it. I can make any changes that I need. If I like what I see, I can print. In order to print the ballot, we're going to make sure that we load the paper correctly. There'll be labels and signs that tell people how to load the paper, but essentially what it is we do it face down with the top towards us. So face down and the top towards the voter or towards the election judge. We load that in there. And then we allow it to print on the ballot paper. It's a two-sided ballot, so it's going to go in and out to print on both sides. And then we've got our cast ballot. That ballot gets fed into the machine just like any other ballot would get fed into the machine. Alright, election judges, so we've now made it to 8 o'clock, the close of polls, and we can start packing up the OmniBallot. Remember that we're going to leave the OmniBallot fully functional until the last voter in line at 8 o'clock casts his or her ballot into the tabulator. Once that occurs, then we can start packing up the device. It's quite easy to pack up the OmniBallot. The first thing that we're going to do is actually shut off the OmniBallot. We do that by selecting the little admin icon on the bottom of the screen there. We put in our username and password. Again, remember this is going to be provided to you on election day, so you're just going to use your cheat sheets and your instructions like you're doing for everything else to get things packed away. And then what we're going to do is close the polls, or excuse me, close the election, and then we can shut down the device. Easy as that. Once that's shut down and powered off, we can start packing it up. We're going to first unplug all of our connections. That includes the QR code reader. That goes in our supply kit. We're going to unplug our printer cable connection, and we're going to unplug the printer. The printer and its power cord can be put together, and we're going to put the printer in the carrying case that we have available, and then we're going to pack the cords in our supply kit. That we'll do that in just a second. When we pack up the rest of the OmniBallot, it all just sits in the cutout tray sections in the foam padding. And so you can just make that all line up and be put away just like you would expect it to go. Again, just follow the instructions that are provided and you can get that all packed up. A couple of things to keep in mind is that our QR code reader, we want to make sure we tuck that in, and our printer, we want to make sure both of those get tucked in the cutouts before we put the tray cover back on. Okay, the tray cover just sets back on with the Velcro, and you are good to go. You can bring the top back down on the OmniBallot. Just watch your cords a little bit, make sure nothing's getting pinched in there. And then we just close the tops. And we have our OmniBallot packed up. We then just put everything else back in our supply kit, our power cords, and our QR printer, or QR scanner, and we're set to go. That is the OmniBallot. Hopefully you find this video helpful. Remember that you can come into our office and practice on the OmniBallot if you'd like, or sign up for that optional capstone course where you'll be able to ask questions or get a little bit of exposure to the equipment as well. Thank you.